So, looks like I am live. um, this is so still new to me, but I am so happy to be here with you today and to welcome you to this little webinar where we're going to talk about the 5G of emotions. We're going to start with a little overview. So I'm going to kind of let you know first a little bit what's gonna happen in this next hour, 45 minutes to an hour, depending. And I'm really looking forward to share this with you. And first of all, we're going to do a little practice. Before we start to talk, before we start to get into the theory, we're going to do an experience of how already we can balance the emotional chi in the body very quickly. So for those of you who don't know me yet, who are here for the first time, I'm Angela Chambers. I'm an acupuncturist and Chinese medicine practitioner. I studied in Australia. I studied in China. I studied in Oxford. And I'm still today, 20 years later, in love with this medicine, in love with the possibilities for self-care it can give us. And this path has led me to have this little clinic here that you see behind me. This is my clinic that I work in La Tourbe. And it's a place where people come for acupuncture, for Chinese medicine lifestyle advice, for some yoga practice. And through the years that I'm here and that I'm working with people, I really realized that one of the things I love the most is to give people the tools to take care of themselves. I think it's very, very empowering and also very important to me as the practitioner to see that people get better and that they know also how to help themselves and are not dependent, not on me nor on anybody else for certain practices and healthcare support that is possible with the tools of Chinese medicine. And so today we're going to have a look at that together. We're going to walk through a practice, like I said. We're just going to do a little chi flow together, just to get the chi moving and to get my nervousness a little bit out of the body. Then we're going to have an overview over the 5 emotions, so you get a little bit of an idea what that actually means and how cool it is that the Chinese medicine gives the emotions a whole different kind of way of looking at emotions, because this is what I really appreciated when I met Chinese medicine and I understood this view of emotions and emotional health, and how the emotions relate to our organs, how they can be accessible through the meridians, and how we have an influence on our emotional health. And that, for example, things that maybe your general practitioner would not really be able to help you with. It could be something like having a lot of frustration and anger outbursts, or being somebody who worries a lot of the time. And that kind of worry, normal worry is normal, but when worry becomes over excessive, when you cannot stop thinking about the same thing and just keeps going over and over in your mind, that, for example, is something that in Chinese medicine we can work with, we can treat, we can help you with. And so it's very empowering to know these tools. And that's why I'm here today, because I want you to know them. And at the end of this webinar, I'm also going to introduce you to the 5 Chi, the expanded version of the 5 course. This time, we're taking more time for this course, and I'm going to explain you all the kind of cool new things in it, and also some extra bits and pieces that could be interesting for you to know if you want to join this journey. If you want to learn how to balance your health, but also your emotional health through acupressure, through the wisdom of Chinese medicine and the 5 elements, and through essential oils. This is the combination I can offer you. So for the practice, so if you have a little bit of space around you, it would be good. If not, then no problem. You can watch it and maybe do it later. So also, if you have an oil nearby, I'm going to use a little bit of bergamot. So you can just have a little smell, or you may want to take a little bit on the palm of your hand, rubbing the palms together and just taking 1 or 2 breaths. And as you exhale, feel how your feet are grounded and how you can just sink a little bit to soften your knees, sink down. And then again, as you inhale, press the feet gently into the ground. And then exhale, relax down again. 1 last breath. And exhale. Beautiful. Now let everything go, let your shoulders go, feel that grounded feeling of your feet, and just simply begin to come from your center and swing from the center, letting the arms just swing along with you. Like when we were children, just turning, the hips stay forward, the arms are completely relaxed, there is no work in the arms. You can also do it super slow. And try to look behind you. And use the look first and then let the body follow. Almost like someone is calling you, like someone would be calling Angela, and I'm like, what? And there is no effort in your arms. So try that a little bit more, couple more. This is one of the easiest and most efficient moves I have ever encountered. So let that go. Just feel for a moment how that feels in the body. Feel maybe already you notice this kind of buzzing sensation just from that little bit of movement. Now we're going to do not a couple of minutes, but a moment of shaking. So simply lifting and lowering the heels. That's all you're doing. Lifting and lowering the heels and shaking out the arms, the shoulders, the face. You feel it even in your thighs, you feel it in your bottom, and just shake everything out. Let the day go, let everything that's heavy fall off your shoulders, and notice how you can let go towards the earth below. Do a tiny little bit more so you get that really nice feeling afterhand. And just simply stand still. Close your eyes and do not miss this moment of noticing how you feel, of how your chi or your energy feels right now. This can be buzzing in the body, this can be warmth, this all kinds of different sensations. Sometimes we even feel that one arm is longer than the other. Beautiful. Now bring your hands up to the top of your head to Bai Hui. And at the same time as your feet are super grounded, kidney 1 is a point in the center of your foot, in the first part of your foot. Let that sink down as you gently tap the top of your head. Bai Hui, the 100 meeting points up here, and just gently tapping to bring the energy up, to create focus now. And then just simply stroke through your hair 3 times. Let it go. Notice how you feel. And we're ready to go. So this is just a tiny little experience how quickly we can change the state of chi in the body. And this is really what I am here to share with you, is the way emotions are seen in Chinese medicine and how you can access them. Of course, you will only get a little overview in this webinar today, but there is so much more to learn, and you're very welcome to join the 5 Chi, because that's where we're going to go through each element for 1 month and like feeling it in our lives, understanding that element, working with that element's meridians, acupressure points and oils, to get a direct experience of how can we influence this ourselves in that moment. And even more with practice. This material is so old. It's been practiced and used over so many years that we can really have trust not only in that long history, but also in how it feels pretty much immediately. So let's have a look at these 5 emotions and these 5 chi of emotions. Just as climates exist with seasons, emotions are primal forces within the human psyche. We all experience moments of anger, moments of joy, moments of worry, grief, fear. That's completely normal, and most of the time that is also appropriate. It's normal that when someone cuts you off, that you may experience a short moment of a little bit of frustration, or that when you have a great experience, that you will experience joy, or that when your child should be home and it's not home yet, of course you will be worrying. Same with the emotion of fear. That is part of our life, and to experience fear is normal. But just as in the climate, when the seasons become out of control, it is the same in the human body. Because Chinese medicine sees the human body as a huge landscape, as a microcosm within the macrocosm, so a small world within the big world. And I really love this image because it allows us to observe nature and then observe these same kind of principles within us. And so it's natural to feel these emotions as long as there is a certain balance. When there is an imbalance, meaning that, for example, one emotion is experienced internally or externally a lot of the time, and you can feel yourself that maybe it's too much, or you just tend to experience certain emotions over and over again. That is when you can maybe notice that there might be an imbalance. Of course, if you see a Chinese medicine practitioner or acupuncturist, they will also, maybe say to you, "Oh, your liver qi is a little bit tight," or "Your kidney qi is too deficient," or these kind of things. And this is also something that the 5 course will help with, is to understand Chinese medicine diagnostic that is given to you when you go to your own practitioner. So emotions really they are energy in motion, and they are moving through us, and depending on how we work with emotion, we will tend to either keep holding on to certain emotions, or we learn to let them pass through us and to work with them and to get to know them and find ways to balance these emotions. And for that, we have some really good ways to use with the acupressure, Chinese medicine, and the 5 elements. I just don't want to forget anything, because always after these webinars, I'm like, I forgot to say this, I forgot to say that. And so this time I've got a little list. So the 5 emotions are obviously connected with the 5 elements. And the 5 elements, I'll show you this little diagram. This is what we use in the 5 Chi course. And this is something that's very, very helpful to start to understand this connection, this flow of energy around the different elements. So if we start with, for example, wood, the wood element represents the springtime. Springtime then moves into summer, into the fire element. The fire element becomes earth, and late summer or Indian summertime, which then moves into the metal element, which is associated with fall or autumn, with that time of letting go, until we move into winter or the water element here, representing the kidneys and the bladder. And so this is the generating cycle. So this way is a normal flow around the 5 elements, or the 5 phases of transformation, how they're often called. And each of these phases is related to one of the emotions. So when we start with the wood element is the season of springtime. It's the time, and when you think about the energy in springtime, what comes up for you? When you take a moment to feel the energy of springtime, what does it feel like? generally you will see like sprouts coming through. You will suddenly see like a very strong power coming from nature, from what has been covered before completely in wintertime. There is no activity, nothing. And then suddenly one day we all see these little sprouts coming out of the earth, out of the tree, out of the plants. And it's like nature knows exactly when the right moment is to do that. And that energy is outward, it moves up towards the light, it's very expansive. And that's the same in the human body. It's the same with, for example, a wood element type person, even though we don't say somebody is a type, because everybody has the 5 elements within them. We are all made of the same stuff, but in different quantities. That's how I usually explain it to my patients. So we all have the 5, but every one of us has a little different combination of them. And so getting to know them will allow you to become very aware of your own personal blueprint, to see if you have more wood, or if you have more fire element, or if you're more tending towards the water. And in general, our constitutional type will not change. That is something we are born with. But we go through these cycles also in our lives. So from birth to death, we pass through these 5 phases of transformation. And again, the same also throughout one day. Because, midnight would be representative of wintertime and water element, whereas midday would be the fire element and the most young time of the day. So everything can be categorized and looked at through the lens of this 5 element or 5 phases transformation. And that gives us an understanding of everything. Even projects move through these 5 phases. And so with emotions, the wood chi, the chi of the earth, of the wood element relates to anger. And when we just talked about the nature of the wood element, which is expansive, it's moving in the directions, it is also the chi that the wood chi gives us, human beings, the direction we want to go in life. It gives us our vision for life and the energy to follow up on this vision. This is one of the big jobs of the wood element. And that is also why when the wood chi or the element chi of the liver and gallbladder meridians, for example, is blocked, we tend to feel a lot of frustration in the body. We feel maybe a tendency towards anger outbursts. We may feel strong migraine headaches that just suddenly turn up, or you feel them suddenly, they may even move around. So there is very specific symptoms and signs that we have for each of the element typology. Wood chi relates to anger, causing energy to rise up. It tends to flare up, lash out with sudden explosiveness, like the windy storms of spring, unpredictable and intense. Fire chi, that is now the energy of the summertime, relates to the emotion of joy. And in the first moment, we always think that the emotion of joy, you cannot ever have too much joy, but you can, because too much joy causes energy to disperse. When we feel joy in the body, it has a dispersing quality. So it can also disperse blocked energy. So it can be a very good thing when when something joyful, we get a joyful news in a moment where we're just angry, then the joy will be able to disperse that tension chi that we just experienced before, for example. But it tends to dissipate and be lost. So the fire chi, the chi of the heart and the small intestine, is a chi that is more gentle. If you saw the wood element is like forceful, then the chi of the fire is more gentle. It's smaller, but it disperses also easily. When somebody is overcome by joy, that can lead a person to feel kind of giddy and weak, almost like when you have a summer heat stroke in the summertime. Can leave you exhausted and drained if you have too much joy, because your energy dissipates. Now we move on to the earth chi, the chi of the earth element, which is a very special one, especially for us women, because it's one of those that I notice we really need to tend to the most. In Chinese medicine, there's a whole school about how to take care of the earth element, because it's seen as so important. And some element diagrams will show earth element in the center and as an image, and then the 4 directions around, meaning that after every season, so we move back into the earth element for about 19 days for restoration, again tonifying our earth element before we move on to the next season. That's a different way to look at the 5 elements. Now, the earth chi relates to rumination and worrying. That's the kind of over-worrying I was talking about before. It causes the energy to slow down. It causes energy to become sluggish in movement. It tends towards stagnation and leaving one lazy and inert, not really motivated anymore. And it is represented also by this humidity that you often feel in the late summer season. Dampness, what we call this in the body, tends to sink downwards and be very heavy and block things. So that is another reason why in Chinese medicine, the earth element, the element of our digestive system, of the way we absorb nourishment into ourselves, how we transform it into our own chi, that is the subject of the earth element. Also in the 5 course there, we're doing an element practice for that. We're working with the meridians, the spleen and the stomach meridians. We use oils to tonify those 2, food therapy or food medicine, as we call it, all kinds of stuff that we can do to help ourselves when we tend to be somebody who overgives, who is so giving that they forget themselves all the time, and then afterhand are very frustrated about that, and then tell themselves off even more. That's a typical kind of thing that can happen when your earth element can be when your earth element is deficient. From the earth, we move into metal. Metal is the time of fall or autumn. It's the time when all the plants and the trees let go of their leaves. They let go of anything unnecessary so that their strength can go down into the roots for wintertime. So everything that's unnecessary, that wasn't used over this cycle, is let go. And it relates to the lung and to the large intestine meridian system in the body. So the emotion is grief. The emotion is deep sorrow and sadness, causing energy to stop. Grief and sadness can stop everything. It's almost like we feel like we are frozen. It tends to constrict and close things down. When we are imprisoned by this emotion, we tend to cut ourselves off from life. In a way to protect ourselves. We start to cut off anything that is too much. And we feel more withered, we feel dried out, and we don't feel like we are fresh and full to give. So the emotion of grief is something too that in Chinese medicine we can use the lung meridian. We can use acupressure on the lung meridian. I love using lung 10 for this. And that is such an easy practice to massage this point and massage the whole lung meridian with the appropriate oils to help ourselves to work with the emotion of grief, to be with ourselves when this emotion strikes, and to have something that we can do. And especially for grief, I find to have something that we can grab and take a moment to smell can be so beneficial, to not go down even further, to maybe just hold ourselves, to be able to give ourselves the space to process the emotion of grief and work with that energy in our body. From the metal chi, we go to the water chi. The water chi is the time of winter, is the time of the bladder and the kidney meridian. It is deeply related to the emotion of fear, of survival. And it's interesting that often in a clinical setting, I will see this connection of being very fearful of, for example, the livelihood of the work that somebody has, of losing their job or losing their income, and how often there's many cases where they will present with lower back pain or feeling of weak knees, or problems within the bladder or the prostate. So often I see these connections of the emotions becoming materialized within the body. And the more we understand these things, we are able to intercept maybe earlier. We are able to know that when we go through phases of heightened stress, for example, or grief or fear, that we know that it would be a good idea to support ourselves as much as we can through this time, so it doesn't have as detrimental effect on our health in general. When our survival is threatened, one becomes petrified with fright and loses control. That is the freezing, the moment of freezing out of fear, where we don't know anymore what to do or what to say or where to go, where everything is frozen. That is the emotion of the water element. But always remember that it's not just one emotion. That emotion always has a big variety of variations of that emotion, and has its effect anyway in the body. And that doesn't have to stress us. So it doesn't mean that now we think, oh shit, now I'm stressed, so now it's detrimental for my health. No, that's not why I want to share this with you. I want to give it to you because it's empowering to know that when you're going through a phase where you experience more fear than usual, for example, you know that the water elements needs enough sleep and enough rest. It needs to be tonified with the food you eat and the way you rest and you restore yourself. And just that information will help to strengthen yourself, even if you're going through a difficult time. So as you notice already, in Chinese medicine, the emotions are considered a huge influence on our general health. And so in Chinese medicine, the idea is to keep your emotional life very balanced, never is never a good word, to not experience too much up and down of emotions, because we all know how drained we can feel when our emotions go all over the place, every day different. And it's difficult to sustain your goals, your relationships, your path in life when the emotions are all over the place. So to find balance for the emotions is a worthwhile practice and path in Chinese medicine, and one that I have experienced now for so many years, and really feel the difference for my own life. It doesn't mean that I'm all the time perfectly balanced, not at all. But I do feel very empowered in the way how I can work with my emotions, and how I can also show my children or my patients how they can use specific acupressure points in specific moment, combined with an essential oil, maybe combined with a little chi practice even, to change, to give a moment to take it in, transform it, and let it go. So that is a little bit about the emotions in Chinese medicine. I hope this makes sense. I hope it wasn't too fast. And I really would love for you to have an idea what that means for our lives. That when we can take emotions in a way more seriously, rather than saying, "Oh, you're just emotional." We hear this very often, and it's like, yeah, but the emotions are energy in motions. They are affecting our body all the time. And one of the reasons why we can use, for example, acupressure, why that works for our emotional health, is that the meridians are pathways in the body where we are connected to the energy around us. The universal energy is connected through our fingertips, through different parts of the body, entering the meridians. And you can imagine the meridians like a river flowing from either the tips of your fingers or the tips of your toes to and from the organs. So it's like a river of energy flowing straight through your body, through the tissues, connecting with the organs, with different parts of the body, and therefore influencing them in this way. So maybe that also helps to understand why acupressure can actually help you within the body, because it really is the gateway from the outside world into the inside world. So a little bit about why I did the 5G. I mean, I have already covered some of that, but really one of the biggest reasons for me is that after so many years of studying, of practicing, of working in clinic, it's just become too obvious for me that this has to be a course, that this had to be a course. And the first time I decided to do that was in 2002, just after the lockdown. I had time to create the first version of the 5. And then the 5G that is offered now, that is opening today, this Thursday. And if you watch this in a replay, then there will be a different date. But the 5G is a expansion of the 5 course. So all the material that was in the 5 course is still in the 5G course. So each module, we start with the introduction module where we learn a little bit about Chinese medicine philosophy, about Taoism, about what Qi means, about what the meridians are, and then we go through one element at a time, one a month, and you get over 10 hours of live teaching and practice with me in this course. And that was super important to me because I really wanted to teach this live. I want to be there with you and I want to guide you through the course. We're starting in this round with the water element. And in each month, at the beginning of the month, the course, the module will open for you with PDFs to print out, with some mini lectures to watch, and also the call that we had in the last session. So you already have something to watch and something to learn also, because I will ask you to practice doing the meridians. You will be printing out all the PDFs and hanging them up all around you so that you will learn through absorption rather than learning by heart. I'll share lots of different tips with you as well about how to make this really an experience for you. It's not a theory course. It's not an academic course. It's a course from my heart to yours. It's a course for you to get in there, get to know your meridians, get to know your chi flow, and realize your power in affecting your health. That's what this course is about. And so in this expanded version, we're going to be speaking with each other once a month. I'll have a call, one in English, one in German. And you can watch either call if you understand both calls. You will get something new out of each call, because I can never do the same call exactly the same. So for those of you who speak both languages, it'll be cool because you can do both. And then there will be a live practice session, meaning we will meet, and I changed the time. It will be at all different days and times, so that as many can join as possible. We will be doing an hour of practicing Qigong together, Qi practices, cultivating your energy, acupressure, and meridian flow yoga movements. That is going to be the live practice in the middle of the month. And then at the end of the month, we will do the theory about that module, where you can send me. I will keep track of all your questions. You will send them to me or post them in the course, and then I will go through them. I will answer all of your questions and make this very easy for you to understand, because that's my specialty. And then that's what we do every month. And then at the end of this course, for those who are present on all the calls and have done all the modules, there is the possibility of having a certificate of completion from the course, so that you have something in your hands. Now, what else? Let me see if I forgotten anything. Yes, I have. In the course, you also have, in each module, you have not only the meridian PDFs, an explanation about the element, you also have a video about a movement meditation or a sound practice, using sound to relieve chi from the body. So each element has its own sound that we can use, and it's very simple. It's a sound you can do with and that I explained to you also in little videos. So nothing is too long, so you can do this again and again. That's really the idea of the five chi especially. And so many of previous students are often letting me know that they are just doing a bit of acupressure, that they're loving how they've been able to use the five in their yoga practice, in their yoga teaching, in their massage practice. I have animal physios that are using it for their furry patients, and it's just such a pleasure to see the joy that these practices bring and how simple it can be. It doesn't mean you have to study 5 years of Chinese medicine. It means that, like most Chinese people, they know the acupressure points, they know the 5 elements, so that's already in their culture, in their thinking. But we don't, but we can very much use it too, because the 5 elements are universal. They're here for everyone, and they're just a blueprint of nature that we can use for radiant health, for a better connection to ourselves, and for more kind of peace and harmony, and a way to cultivate our own energy, so that wherever we are, wherever we go, we are a source of chi to anybody who crosses our path. For me, that's always important to understand that the more we are filled up, the more we are nourished and nurtured, the more the chi just flows through us to anybody that comes into our surroundings. So that's pretty much all I have for you today, and I hope you enjoyed this information. I hope it was useful for you, and if you joined the course or not, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure to share this with you. Feel free to let me know on Instagram, Alpine Angel, or you can email me at angela@meridianflow.ch and let me know how you're doing and how you enjoyed this. Otherwise, I will see you in the 5 Chi. I'm very, very excited. We're going to start the first module the beginning of March, but you can join also after that and join anytime. But we have a very special prize at the moment, so this is a good opportunity, and I'm just so happy to be here with you, and thank you, and take good care of you. Lots of love.